Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Lawyers Coach podcast. I'm Ollie Hansard and I'm here with my co-host Claire Rason.
Hi Ollie.
How are you, Claire? How are you doing?
I'm good. Looking forward to this episode.
And who have you been speaking to?
So I have been speaking to Nicky Owen, who is a little bit different from our usual guest because she's actually not a lawyer. She's an accountant.
Probably about time for the Lawyers Coach podcast that we spread our wings a little bit wider. What topics do you cover?
So a couple of things. So one of the things that Nicky is involved with at Crowe is the law firm benchmarking survey. So we have a little bit of a think about what comes out of that. My path crossed with Nicky's also in connection with a book that we have co-authored together on preparing for partnership. And actually, Nicky gives some really interesting insights as a senior female partner in terms of her journey, but also in terms of, what people need to think about as they go up through the ranks. And I think, accountancy and law, different professions, but lots of similarities. And we talk about those.
Brilliant, Claire. Let's hit the play button.
So just to start off, it'd just be really interesting to find out how you got to where you got to in terms of your career.
Well, thank you, Claire. Well, I've been working in tax for 30 years. I don't really know how I fell into tax, to be perfectly honest. I was doing a degree in computing and sciences, did a year working for the MOD underwater explosives, and decided that really writing computer programs wasn't going to be my job for life. And so I thought I'd give accountancy and tax a whirl and joined a small firm, and it grew from there. I got involved in tax, spoke to a partner in a firm of patent attorneys who told me that you don't want to be doing audit because that's a tick box exercise and partners never have any time for auditors. Why don't you try tax? Because it's all about our pockets, and we'll give you all the time you need, all the airtime that you need. And so that's where my tax journey started, really, more than anything else. I love talking to people. I'm very much a people person, and that's probably one of the reasons why I seem to have done so well within my career, because people buy people in that respect. Now reached the heady heights of head of professional practices at Crowe, also a senior equity partner there. I'm still passionate about tax. It gets me up every day. And the people that I work with, I've always worked with brilliant people. And I'm now at the position where I feel that I'm making an impact on other people's careers, and nothing cheers me up or makes my day if I feel that I've helped somebody else in their career and helped them develop.
So I think you are the first guest that we've had that has gone from explosives to tax. So tell us a bit more about that.
Oh, it was great for a 20-year-old to be involved in. I worked for the MOD and I had to sign the Official Secrets Act. And I used to have to go up to a place in West-super-Mare, and at low tide, we would lay explosives on the sand. And at high tide, effectively, we would blow them up. And my role in all of this was I would have to put sensors close to the explosive to see what the impact was. And so it was really interesting. And I was the only girl that had ever had working in the team. And so that was quite fascinating in that respect as well. And how management, because I had to deal with labourers and management always got me to, if they wanted anything done by the labourers, it was like, Nicky, can you get this sorted? So I was like the go-between, but I really didn't mind because it was absolutely great fun.
Amazing. We will talk about lawyers and we will get there, and we will talk about your benchmarking survey. But you spoke there about people. So I just wanted to kind of focus in a bit about that, because I think, whether you're an accountancy practice or a law firm, the saying that people buy from people is one that you do hear over and over again. What is your view, I guess, with your accountancy hat on, of, how well firms are at developing their people and developing those skills, the people skills that so often get kind of put in second place a little bit?
Oh, I think it is a real challenge, and I think it's more of a challenge now than it ever has been. I don't think we appreciated pre-COVID how much people learn from being around people, and that osmosis of sitting at a desk, picking up the phone and talking. Not just sending an email and hiding behind it, but building rapport and building relationship with clients and contacts. Many years ago, I can remember sitting next to somebody, and when I came off the phone, she said to me, "I can't believe you spoke to Joe Bloggs about your holiday and their holiday." And it was like, well, yes, I was talking to a client. I was talking to an FD. And it's all about building rapport, and building that relationship so that, yeah, I'm still friendly I'm still friendly with that individual, despite the fact that they've now been retired probably 5 years. He still keeps on contact with me on LinkedIn. He sends me text messages and emails, and it's just widening that network in that respect. And I think we learn from osmosis. So it is key that people can see how other people react and interact with others. And so going back to your question, and I know I've taken a long way to get there, but being in the office and working with people closely helps. Firms do need to help individuals grow and develop. I know that we have, and we spend a lot of time within Crowe trying to think about actually what we need to do for our trainees, and then as far as not just technically, but on their soft skills, and then how do we then develop that? And for a long time, I've always seen that despite the fact that people spend so much time on the phone socially, they still worry about picking up the phone and talking to clients, strangers, new clients, contacts, and people want to hide behind emails. And no, have that conversation, because it just brings life to everything that you're talking about.
And you kind of touched on some themes there that are themes that I'm sure are going to come up across the course of this series. And, they're themes that when I'm talking to my clients, I'm hearing about how do we recreate learning by osmosis that used to happen so naturally in the office, now that we've got a different way of working. What are you doing at Crowe to think about that and to try and make it work?
Well, one thing we are encouraging, particularly the trainees, to be in the office more. And also, it's also, well, the trainees being in the office, we also need the managers and the partners to be in the office. You can go online onto our intranet and see that there are courses available, and we're always trying to come up with new ideas. And I think the key is for people to think about what do they need, and for line managers to think about what do their people that they line manage need. And even if they can't find that there is a course that is being advertised or is available, or a webinar, that they raise it, so that actually there's bound to be others that will benefit. So it's just being open about it, talking about it, because we can't magic up everything, because we don't necessarily know exactly what we need. It's only by people talking and communicating that we actually find out exactly what courses that we do need to have. But I think that the number of days that we spend in the office will increase. I read an article last week saying that they thought by 2026 that a lot of firms will be back to 5 days a week in the office, which actually I'm not sure is the right thing for everybody. It will work for some people, obviously, but I think you do need to have that presence in the office if you want to progress, and you need to be seen and you need to be heard, and you're not going to get that just by being at home, particularly in the professional services.
And in terms of, we kind of touched on progression there, and our paths crossed because of progression. So we both wrote some content together for the book Preparing for Partnership. So let's go there now and think about that, because obviously you are a partner, a female partner, and you mentioned that you enjoy helping and mentoring and bringing others up. So when you give advice to people in your firm about their career progression, what are the things that you're saying to them? And I wonder actually whether that's changed pre and post COVID, or whether the advice is as true now as it was before?
Oh, gosh, Claire, that is an interesting question. So what would be my advice to people looking to progress? Go for it. Find out what you need to do to get there. Don't think it will happen overnight. And also respect the fact that your peers, there may be other people within your peer group that you also know want the same as you, but don't have it as a fight. Just appreciate that you will all get there and you all have your own timelines. And they'll have different things going on in their life rather than yours. And so just enjoy that time, because you can never go, it's difficult to go back to being a manager in that respect. And then when you do become a partner, you have to look back and who is going to fill your shoes. So actually, just thinking about this, if you're looking to grow, also look for the people that are going to be stepping into your shoes when you go up that ladder, because that's quite difficult as well, because you need to have the people in place behind you as well. And that is success. I look forward to when I retire, because I look back and I can see that I've got the people in place. And so I won't be missed. And that is a positive. We're all replaceable. And years ago, I was once told, you are as replaceable as the hole that is left behind when you take your hands out of a bucket full of water. And every now and again, I think back to that, because it is so true. We are all replaceable. And don't think for one moment we're not.
A linked question. So one of the things, I've spoken to you before, that I'm quite passionate about is seeing more balance in partnerships, whether they be in accountancy firms or law firms. I think there's quite a lot of similarity in terms of the numbers, women and men. And one of the things that I wonder about is how you can encourage people to be their authentic selves. And I know it's a bit cliche now, isn't it? Be your authentic self. But I think we have a vision of, what it is to be a partner, and we have to try and mold ourselves to that vision. And, I wonder what the dialogue is, or what your views are on encouraging people to lead authentically and to do it their way, as opposed to the way that they perhaps see modelled above them.
I think quite often, Claire, we put people on pedestals. So I know I did, and I know I'm not alone here. We work closely with a partner and we're thinking, yes, I want to be a partner. I want to join them on that top table. And you think you need to be them, but you're not them. And sometimes it's really difficult to come outside of their shadow. And you have to find your own way. And that can be really, really difficult. But when you do achieve it, and you achieve it in little stages, you don't actually realize you've achieved it, I think, until one day you stop and you look and you think, I'm there on my own. I am being my authentic self, and I've done it without even realizing it. Don't copy anybody else, just be you. People respect you for being you. I know that partnership is a collection of individuals. An LLP, yes, is a corporate, but we're not all in uniform. We are all different, and that's what makes a partnership and makes it individual in that respect. Stand up for what you think. Don't be put off by what other people have to say, and really try to get your point across.
And it's interesting because we were talking about preparing for partnership and advice to give those coming up. What advice would you give fellow partners? We all say to those coming up, you need to think about this or you need to do that. But what can they do to help those people that are coming up?
I think what we can all do is listen, not coach them and not tell them what to do, but help an individual come up with their own way of dealing with the situation. Tell them how you dealt with it. Give them examples of how other people have dealt with that particular issue or have risen to or stepped up. So effectively, I'm saying mentoring them at the end of the day. Listen, Don't give them the answers because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know the answer, what will work for them, but let them have a try. And actually, they can have a go and it may not work. Well, then have another go. I'm sure you, Claire, as did I as a child, I could always remember my mum saying to me, if you don't at first succeed, try again. And I haven't heard that being said for years, but I think it still stands.
Yeah, I say it to my kids,
Oh,
so
that's
they,
good.
they
That's
certainly
good.
still hear it.
Yes.
Let's move on now to the benchmarking report that you do. And perhaps for those that haven't come across it before, just give a little bit of background in terms of what it is. I understand it's been going for a few years now. So what is it, and what have you found this year?
Well, just like we've already been talking about, this was something new to me personally this year. In the past, I've been involved, but not at the same level. So this year I was much more actively involved in it. It's a benchmarking survey focused on the law sector. We've been running it for 11 years, and the people that have been involved at a very high level previously were too busy to deal with it. So I was involved with it with one of my directors, Ben Carter. So the two of us were involved in it very closely, coming up with the questions. We wanted to freshen it up a little bit. We wanted some new questions. So in the past, it's been predominantly very focused on the financials. We always have a section which is for free form answers, where we're wanting to find out what the views are going forward, where firms are focusing on what they expect to be focusing on the next 12 to 18 months. But this year we added a couple of questions around cybercrime, sustainability, ESG, ED&I, because we thought actually we want to know about it, because Ben and I are both passionate about our people and helping them develop. So we wanted to know what was going on.
And what surprised you in terms of what came out?
Surprised me? Well, I hate to bark on about it, but cybercrime. We know it's increasing. It will continue to increase. We know firms are actively involved, and I just wonder how much firms and the people within firms realise how much is going on within their firms as far as cybercrime is concerned. Do they know how much is going, how many times their potential attacks, and what their firms are actually doing? Because firms still seem to be having annual training on it, which seems to be mandatory, and that's the vast majority. And so therefore it appears to be a bit of a tick box exercise, but I'm sure if we spoke to those IT teams involved, they would probably tell us that actually there's lots of other things that they're doing in the background, making sure that their people don't slip up and are, they've got preventive measures being in place. But I'm not sure that everybody is aware of that. I'm not necessarily sure that people necessarily high up appreciate exactly what is going on. So I think there needs to be an awareness around that within firms, that how much firms are trying to counter cybercrime.
And in terms of some of those other areas, so you mentioned kind of ESG and EDI, I guess similar question, was there anything that you were not expecting to see that you kind of unsurfaced?
Well, I was really interested about on the ED&I question. In as far as I really wanted to know what policies people were having in place, whether they were looking at it, how proactive it is, because I think it should be something that's evolving. And so I was quite pleased to see that some firms had got a burnout policy, one for pregnancy loss, and also one for transitioning. So it seems to me that there are some firms that are cutting edge as far as their policies are concerned, and are thinking about the wider picture, and are thinking very much about their people and trying to be all inclusive, and really making sure that they've got policies in place that reflect what they're trying to achieve on the ED&I platform as well. And one thing that does concern me, though, is they might have that in place for their employees and their people, but do they have it in place for their partners? What is the position for their partners? Because quite often, partners, there isn't a handbook. Yes, there is an agreement, but perhaps there should be a handbook, just like there is an employee handbook. And we should be thinking about mirroring those policies in a partnership handbook.
And I guess drawing out from that, and it might be that you talk to your sector, I guess, which will face similar challenges. For me, some of these challenges, so ESG, ED&I, they're challenges that we are all facing, we're all grappling with, we're all thinking about how to approach them. And for me, they are things that are just so huge that you need to approach them in collaboratively. For me, it makes no sense that everyone is thinking about the same issues and kind of beavering away at them on their own. How much is your sector collaborating on some of this stuff, or is it still seen very much as we're going to gain competitive advantage here, therefore we aren't going to be sharing any of our insights?
Oh gosh, and I can honestly say I'm not aware how collaborative we are being, but I think we're all thinking that we all need to display and show that we are thinking about ESG, we are thinking about ED&I, because if you're not on a journey, and it is a journey, then you're not going to get the talent, because that's what people are asking when they're going for an interview. That's what people are asking in appraisals. They're asking these questions. But I know when I first joined, ESG, ED&I, that wasn't a question that was raised at interview level. It certainly wasn't raised during the appraisal process, but now it is active. And the young people in particular, they want to know, what are you doing? But what people are also interested in knowing is not just what you're saying on your website, but actually, really, what are you doing? It's also, well, having the policies in place, but what do you do in reality? So I think there's stories to be told. And I think that is something that Crowe does really, really well. We tell stories. We encourage our people to post their stories on LinkedIn, and we will share them. And all part of Black History Month, we're getting people to share their stories, and we're sharing them with the world in that respect. And I know that Crowe in the US are telling their people, look at what Crowe in the UK are doing. They're sharing stories. And that's really important, because then people can relate to that, and they can see that actually it's not a tick box exercise. It's reality. There are people, and they've got their own stories, and that's what we can build on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of power in stories, and I'm thinking it's a lovely place to kind of end on stories, because you've shared some of yours, and I think we forget the power of storytelling.
And I think we've all got a story to tell, but also I think we read such powerful stories that sometimes we think our own story is not worthy. But I think different stories relate to different people. So I think it's important that we all tell our own story. So, you might read a story to do with Black History Month, and you go, oh, that's so amazing. And look up, my story from a white female in the UK. I've never had to worry about where my next meal is coming from. But I've still got a story, and at times I feel that my story is not adequate, because there are so many other more amazing stories out there.
And we all have a narrative that we tell ourselves, don't we? And it's
yes. And we've all been on a journey, and that journey, let's face it, has never been it's never been a straight line. It's always had its ups and downs and curveballs thrown in, and we never quite know what's going to happen next, but it's how we all deal with it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been really lovely talking to you.
It's been an absolute delight. Really enjoyed it, Claire.
That was Claire Rason talking to Nicky Owen at Crowe. I've got Claire with me now. Claire, what stood out for you during that conversation?
So one of the things I loved about that conversation was Nicky's real passion for developing people. And I think that came through, throughout the episode, really. But one of the things that she highlighted, and it's one of the things that I love about doing the Lawyers Coach, is that it's really important for people to share stories. And I think often we forget that our story has an impact and our story matters. And I love talking to all our guests about their stories, and it was really interesting to hear from Nicky about this idea that firms are ultimately a collection of individuals, and it's really important for each individual to share their views and to share what's going on for them,
and to have different backgrounds and experiences, as her lovely anecdotes about explosives exemplified.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we don't ask the right questions to find those things out about our colleagues, but perhaps you have someone in your firm that's had a slightly odd start to their career, and the only way you will ever find out is by asking.
I worked with a guy who was an Olympic sailor. What a talent. So many people have separate talents to their career activities, and just asking those questions and learning about their stories makes such a massive difference.
Absolutely.
Coming up in the next episode of the Lawyers Coach podcast, I had the pleasure of talking to Sarah Henwood. She's Chief Executive of Thompson, Snell and Passmore, who, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, are officially the oldest law firm in the world. Thanks for listening.
Lawyers Coach is brought to you by Client Talk and Hansard Coaching. If you're a lawyer and would like to take part in Lawyers Coach, please visit our website lawyercoach.co.uk for further details. And you can also join the conversation on our LinkedIn group Lawyers Coach. If there are any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, then just get in touch.